Hope stood on the edge of something that felt like peace. After months of emotional chaos, heartbreak, and letting go of the idea that love could be clean and safe, she was finally here, free to remarry Liam. The papers were drawn, the date was set, and the ceremony would be small but symbolic. It wasn't about grandeur this time. It was about starting over. About stability. About choosing to believe that they had both learned from the past. But peace never lasts long in this world. The night before the signing, as the sun dipped behind the LA skyline, a courier arrived at the cabin. No return address. No note. Just a manila envelope with her name in thick black ink. Hope hesitated before opening it. Something about the weight of it felt off. Inside were photos. Dozens. Candid shots taken with precision and patience. Each one told a story she hadn't been told. Liam, in Malibu. Liam at the Cliff House. Liam with Steffi. Embracing. Laughing. Too close. Too familiar. One photo showed them on the deck, faces inches apart. Another, him holding Kelly as Steffi leaned in. Hope felt her chest tighten. These weren't staged. These weren't innocent. They were private moments, moments Liam never mentioned. Her world tilted. Brooke found her sitting in silence. The envelope open on the table like a bomb that had already gone off. At first, Brooke's instinct was fury. How dare someone try to destroy this for you? But once she saw the images, even Brooke couldn't deny what they implied. She tried to reason. Whatever this was, it doesn't mean Liam doesn't love you. He chose you. That's what matters. Don't let the past steal this from you again. But Hope couldn't hear her. Not yet. Not until she made sense of what her eyes had already seen. And then, Thomas returned. He hadn't meant to get involved. After their last chapter ended, Thomas had left quietly, respecting her choice even if it broke him. But something pulled him back. Something in the air, or maybe in his gut. When he heard about the wedding, he didn't come to object. He came to warn. You think you're starting over, he told her. But the moment you open that door to the past, the whole foundation will collapse. Liam and Steffi, they don't close chapters. They just keep flipping back and forth. And every time, you're the one who bleeds. Hope didn't answer. The next morning, the cabin was quiet. The papers were ready. Liam was already dressed. Hope hadn't spoken to him since the night before. He thought it was just nerves. Thought maybe she needed space. But when he saw the photos spread out on the counter, his face went pale. I can explain, he started, already reaching. But Hope stepped back. Don't, she said. I want the truth. Not your version. Not damage control. I want to know what this was. What it is. Liam stumbled through his words. He admitted to visiting Steffi. Said it was about Kelly. That they'd had a few deep talks. That they needed closure. That parenting together required openness. But even as he spoke, he knew it wasn't enough. The photos had captured more than posture, they captured intention. And Hope saw it in his eyes before he even said it. He still hadn't let go of Steffi. She felt the air leave her body. This was the pattern. The same one she'd broken her heart to escape before. The triangle. The back and forth. The emotional whiplash of sharing a man who couldn't fully choose. She had sworn she'd never do it again. And now, here she was, signing the same script with a different pen. Thomas waited outside the cabin. Not to gloat. Not to plead. Just to be there. Because despite everything, despite his past, his mistakes, he had always been singular in one thing. His love for Hope never shifted. Never wavered. And now, more than ever, she could feel that stability in contrast to everything else falling apart around her. Brooke urged her to look forward. People make mistakes. You and Liam have history, a child, a life. Don't throw it away because of one night, one visit. But Hope knew it was never just one. With Liam, it was always a thread. And once pulled, the whole thing unraveled. Thomas's words echoed louder. The past doesn't stay buried. It waits. And when you open the door, it doesn't knock, it breaks through. She held the pen. Liam looked at her, hope and fear in equal measure on his face. And Hope realized, this wasn't just about love anymore. It was about self-preservation. Did she choose comfort or freedom? Did she sign her name to a future she no longer trusted? Or did she walk away, finally, for good? The answer wasn't on the paper. It was in her silence. And in the way she slowly laid the pen down and walked out the door. After Taylor was shot, the illusion of stability shattered. Deacon, without hesitation, stood before the press and the family, pointing his finger directly at Sheila. His voice echoed with bitter certainty. Sheila was the one who pulled the trigger. But the room, already thick with suspicion and grief, fractured further when the consequences of Deacon's accusations began to sink in. For years, Sheila had danced between redemption and destruction, always managing to crawl back into society's cracks. But this time felt different. This time, the blood on the floor was Taylor's. And that was something no one could overlook. Steffi returned to Los Angeles with fury masking her heartbreak. The pain was raw. She couldn't erase the image of her mother clinging to life, nor forgive the monster who had done it. But waiting for the authorities to connect the dots wasn't an option. Too many times justice had failed them when Sheila was involved. Too many times she had slipped away. This time, Steffi was done playing defense. She met Ridge and Finn the night she landed. No formal plans. No bureaucratic restraint. Just determination burning in their eyes and an unspoken promise. They would hunt Sheila down themselves. Together, the three formed a closed circle. A triangle of vengeance. Ridge brought his decades of experience and connections in the business world. Finn, the medical precision and forensic insight. And Steffi, pure fire, strategy, and the emotional force that glued them together. They began combing through everything. Old records, surveillance footage, security logs from the night of the shooting. Nothing was off limits. But then came the first roadblock. The surveillance footage from the Forrester building's parking level, crucial to tracking Sheila's movement, had mysteriously vanished. Not corrupted, not erased by accident, deliberately wiped. It was a surgical deletion, done by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. The Triangle team realized instantly, Sheila had help. And it wasn't just any outside thug. No, this was someone with access. Someone inside Forrester Creations. Panic set in. The realization that the enemy was within their own walls tore through them like wildfire. Every staff member, every longtime colleague, every supposedly loyal employee became a potential suspect. Steffi demanded a quiet internal review, while Ridge pulled strings to cross-reference digital access logs without alerting Auer. Finn hacked into the off-site storage servers in secret, hoping to recover deleted fragments. And while the police continued stumbling through procedural red tape, the trio moved in silence, working their own angles. Deacon, meanwhile, kept stirring the pot from the outside. His public accusations against Sheila had lit a fuse in the press. But it also made Sheila more dangerous. If she felt cornered, she might lash out again. Deacon knew that, but he was playing his own game. Some whispered that his vendetta against Sheila was personal. That it went beyond Taylor. That something had happened between them. A final betrayal that broke whatever twisted connection they once had. Sheila, for her part, had disappeared. Gone underground. But she hadn't fled the city. She was too smart for that. Too egotistical. She lingered in the shadows, moving between safe houses, disguises, and late-night rendezvous with her protector. She was always watching, waiting, listening, and she knew the triangle was closing in. Then came the second break. Finn found a hidden backup archive, encrypted, buried deep in the Forrester server system, almost like someone tried to bury it permanently. He decrypted the files with a custom script, and what they saw confirmed their worst fear. There was footage from that night. Sheila in the parking lot, hood up but unmistakable, and beside her, handing her a security badge, was someone familiar. The figure turned, blurry, distorted by the low-res angle, but the body language was clear. They knew Sheila, trusted her, helped her, and the triangle's unity fractured under the weight of this betrayal. Steffi stared at the screen for hours, replaying the same 2 seconds again and again. Ridge turned away, muttering to himself. Finn, stone-faced, started building a psychological profile. Then came the name. An internal login trace led them to a match. The badge used to access the secure footage was registered to someone deep inside the company. Someone they had trusted for years. A quiet, efficient force behind the scenes. Always loyal, always present, always invisible. It was Kristen, the longtime IT manager at Forrester Creations. She had been working there since the days of Stephanie. She had no obvious motive, no personal vendetta, but when confronted with the login logs and the recovered footage, she didn't deny it. She just sat down and whispered, "You don't understand." What followed was even more disturbing. Kristen confessed that Sheila had blackmailed her. Years ago, before she ever worked at Forrester, Kristen had been involved in a criminal case that was buried under a false identity. Sheila had found it, dangled it over her like a noose. For months, Kristen had been doing little favors, altering camera logs, copying files, deleting emails, but helping Sheila access the building that night, that was the line she never meant to cross. Sheila had threatened her daughter, showed her photos, names, schedules. The triangle didn't know whether to believe her or not, but they didn't have time to debate. Kristen revealed one last detail: Sheila was planning something else. Bigger. Another strike. Not just against the Forresters but against anyone who had betrayed her. That included Deacon. That included Finn. That included Kristen herself. Suddenly, everything escalated. Steffi called an emergency meeting, bringing in Brooke, Hope, Carter, and even Eric. The circle widened, secrets spilled, and alliances cracked. Brooke demanded Ridge involve the police. Hope pleaded with her mother not to spiral into chaos. But Steffi was already past the point of diplomacy. She wanted results, not warnings. Sheila had already nearly killed her mother. She wasn't going to wait for the next body to drop. Meanwhile, Deacon was making his own move. He traced one of Sheila's old burner numbers to a supply house on the edge of downtown. He went alone. What he found shocked him, a makeshift operating room. Vials, scalpels, forged IDs. And a hit list written on the wall. His name was third. Taylor's name was still at the top, crossed out. Below were photos of Ridge, Steffi, Finn and Kristen. Sheila was unraveling. But then, another twist. Kristen vanished. One day after confessing, she disappeared. Her office cleared. Her car abandoned. No security footage this time. No clues. It was as if Sheila had erased her completely. Steffi blamed herself for pushing Kristen too far. Ridge thought Sheila had silenced her. Finn, ever clinical, believed Kristen had fled before Sheila could punish her. The truth remained uncertain. The tension reached a fever pitch when Sheila struck again. This time, she targeted Deacon. His apartment was ransacked. The walls spray-painted with threats. You chose the wrong side. But what Sheila didn't know was that Deacon had rigged the place with motion sensors and secret cameras. The footage didn't show Sheila, but it showed her new accomplice. A man. Tall. Fit. Tattooed. Someone none of them recognized. The triangle reconvened. Kristen was gone. A new player had entered the game. And Sheila, once again, had slipped through the cracks. But they weren't giving up. They had a partial license plate, facial recognition data, and a blood trail, literally, left at Deacon's window. They were closer than ever. But the question remained, how many people had Sheila already pulled into her web? How many were working for her now? The line between enemy and ally was blurring. And the war for justice was just getting started. Ridge was done playing defense. After Taylor was shot and Sheila's name came up once again, the Forrester family went into crisis mode. But this time, Ridge wasn't waiting for justice to stumble in late. He hired a private investigator, one of the best, and gave him one job: trace the bullet. No assumptions. No distractions. Just the cold, hard line from shooter to weapon to motive. And the trail that came back wasn't what Ridge expected, it was worse. The ballistics report confirmed the weapon was a rare custom model, registered years ago under a shell company connected to a man who had once worked closely with Bill Spencer. Ridge's jaw tightened when he heard the name. It wasn't just a business tie. It was one of Bill's old cleaners, a shadowy operative who handled things off the record. The kind of man who disappeared after doing the job. Ridge didn't waste time. He confronted Bill in person, stormed into Spencer Publications with fire in his eyes. Bill denied everything, claimed he hadn't spoken to the man in years, claimed he didn't even know where he was. I don't play those games anymore, Bill insisted, his voice even but cold. Whatever happened to Taylor, don't try to hang that on me. I've got nothing to gain and no reason to hurt her. Ridge wasn't convinced. Not by a long shot. Because people like Bill always had a reason, even if it wasn't personal, it was business. And someone wanted Taylor out of the picture. Ridge didn't know why yet, but he was getting closer. Then came the real break. The investigator dug deeper, tracing the operative's movements in the days before the shooting. What he uncovered turned the whole case on its head. A surveillance camera at a marina in Marina del Rey had picked up a familiar face. The ex-operative handing off a silver briefcase to a woman with long hair and a noticeable bracelet. The bracelet wasn't flashy, but it was distinct, woven gold and mother of pearl, custom made. The investigator enhanced the image and compared it to public records, social media photos, and archived files. The match came from a photo dated almost 20 years earlier, taken at a charity gala. Poppy Nozawa was wearing the same bracelet. Ridge stared at the photo for hours. Poppy, Luna's mother, the woman who had once drifted in and out of the Forrester orbit like a ghost. Always soft-spoken. Always on the fringe. Ridge had barely registered her presence at the time. But now everything shifted. The bullet that hit Taylor had passed through a gun once connected to Bill. But now it was pointing toward Poppy. And through her, Luna. He didn't tell anyone yet. Not Steffi. Not Brooke. Not even Taylor. This web was too tangled, and every move could make it worse. He needed to know how deep it went. So he ordered the PI to focus on Poppy. Where she'd been in the last 6 months. Who she'd met. What she was hiding. And little by little, a pattern emerged. Poppy had traveled under the radar, using aliases for hotel check-ins. One trip to San Diego overlapped with the same operative who passed her the case. Another trip to Las Vegas showed her meeting with an unnamed associate from a company linked. Again, to Spencer's offshore accounts. It didn't make sense. Not yet, but the lines were converging. Meanwhile, Luna was caught in the middle without even knowing it. She had been gaining attention at Forrester Creations as a promising new designer. Charming and innocent, everyone liked her. RJ was falling harder by the day. But now, Ridge couldn't look at her without questioning everything. Was she just a girl with talent and charm? Or was she part of something darker, something that involved an attempted murder? The pressure built. Ridge finally confronted Poppy at the Forrester building, catching her off guard outside the design office. "Where were you the night Taylor was shot?" he asked flatly. She froze. "Excuse me?" He held up a blown-up image of the bracelet. "You were seen receiving something from a man connected to Bill. The same man whose gun was used on Taylor. So I'll ask again, where were you?" Poppy's expression flickered. Fear? Guilt? She denied everything. Said she'd been at home. Claimed she didn't know the man. That she hadn't been to Marina del Rey in years. But Ridge could see through it. There was something behind her eyes, something she was protecting. Later that day, Poppy made a private call. The Pi tapped into the line. She didn't mention names, but the message was clear: they're getting too close. I need to know what happens if they trace it all back to me. Whoever was on the other end didn't respond immediately. Then came a single word: disappear. The investigation shifted from curiosity to urgency. Ridge realized someone had tried to kill Taylor to send a message. Or silence her. And now, the woman tied to it all might vanish before they got answers. He told Steffi everything. She was furious. Luna's mother? Are you saying she had something to do with Mom getting shot? Ridge didn't say yes, but he didn't say no either. The evidence was stacking up. Too much to ignore, too connected to dismiss. Brooke warned him to slow down. You don't know everything. Be careful before you burn bridges with your own family. But Ridge had passed that point. This wasn't just about Taylor. It was about the rot underneath their lives. The lies. The manipulation. And he wouldn't stop until he uncovered the truth. Then came the next shock. A new photo surfaced from a different angle of the Marina footage. Same scene, same handoff, but in the background, partially obscured by shadows, stood a figure watching the exchange. The software enhanced the image. Ridge nearly dropped the tablet. The figure was Luna. The final piece of the triangle snapped into place. Now it wasn't just Ridge, Poppy, and Bill. Luna was part of the picture, whether she knew it or not. And Ridge had no choice. He summoned her to his office and laid everything on the table. You were there. At the Marina. Why? Luna was stunned. Tears welled up. She claimed she had no idea what was happening. That she had followed her mother out of suspicion. That she never understood the briefcase. The man. Or the urgency. She told me not to ask questions, Luna whispered. She said it was about protecting me. Ridge wasn't sure if it was the truth or another layer of deception. But now, with everything converging, Luna's presence, Poppy's bracelet, the gun linked to Bill, there was no walking away. The circle had closed. Someone tried to kill Taylor. And now the evidence didn't just point to Sheila or to Bill's past. It pointed inward, into their own family, into the rising generation of Forresters and the people they had allowed into their lives. Ridge knew there was more to uncover. More secrets. More betrayals. And he wasn't going to stop, not until he knew who pulled the trigger and why. Because Taylor almost died, and someone still needed to pay.